On February 19, 1942, Australia faced its own version of Pearl Harbor when the Japanese launched a massive air raid on the Australian port of Darwin, located on the northern coast of Australia's Northern Territory. This attack, often referred to as Australia's Pearl Harbor, was a major turning point in the Pacific War and marked the first time that Australian soil was directly attacked by a foreign power. The raid was part of Japan's broader strategy to expand its empire across the Pacific and threaten Australia's security. Strategic context. Following Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941, the country intensified its campaign to dominate the Pacific. The strategic importance of Darwin became evident to the Japanese, as it was the closest significant Australian port to the Japanese-occupied territories in Southeast Asia and the Pacific. At the time, Darwin served as a vital base for Allied naval and air operations in the region, making it a prime target for Japanese military planners. With Japan's advance threatening the security of Australia, the government feared that an attack on Darwin would be the first step in a larger campaign to isolate and invade the Australian continent. 3. On the morning of February 19, 1942, a Japanese air fleet, consisting of around 188 aircraft including bombers and fighters, launched a coordinated attack on Darwin. The raid began around 10 a.m. when waves of Japanese bombers, supported by fighters, bombed the Darwin airfield and the port area. The attack was swift and devastating. Bombs hit key facilities, including fuel storage depots, military installations, and ships docked in the harbor. The surprise nature of the attack caused significant damage to both civilian and military infrastructure. Several Australian and American aircraft were destroyed on the ground, and ships in the harbor were either sunk or heavily damaged. The port itself suffered extensive damage, which hampered Allied supply lines and military operations in the region. The death toll from the attack is estimated to be around 250 people, with hundreds more injured. Aftermath and impact. The bombing of Darwin was a shock to Australia, as it marked the first direct attack on the Australian mainland by a foreign power. While the attack was devastating, it did not result in a Japanese occupation or the destruction of the port, as the raid's main objectives were to disrupt Allied operations rather than seize territory. However, the raid highlighted Australia's vulnerability to Japanese aggression, particularly in the north. It also marked a shift in Australia's military strategy. The attack on Darwin demonstrated that the threat from Japan was not just a distant one but a direct and pressing concern. As a result, Australia increasingly relied on Allied support, particularly from the United States, to defend against the Japanese threat. In the broader context of the Pacific War, the raid on Darwin symbolized Japan's growing confidence in its ability to strike at the heart of Allied territories. For Australia, the attack was a harsh reminder of its precarious position in the Pacific and the need for a strong defense strategy. The bombing of Darwin also set the stage for increased Allied military presence in Australia and reinforced the urgency of securing the Pacific front. It served as a precursor to the larger battles that would follow in the Southwest Pacific, including the defense of New Guinea and the eventual island-hopping campaign against Japanese positions across the Pacific. In recognition of the significance of the attack, February 19th is now observed in Australia as Bombing of Darwin Day, to honor the victims and to remember the impact of the raid on Australia's wartime experience.